Hi, I'm Lee. Welcome to the channel. I hope you're having a lovely day. I'm a short, overweight, middle-aged white dude. I've got thinning brown hair, black gloss, and I'm wearing a blue t-shirt with my logo on it. Pretty cool, right? I'm wearing khaki shorts, and I'm standing in the beautiful Yarra Valley in front of a Kia EV6 because in this video, we're going to do an overview of the Kia EV6. Now, I'm very deliberate in calling this video an overview and not a review because, as the name of the channel would suggest, I'm not a car guy. You really shouldn't take my advice on car stuff. So what I want to do with these videos is give you an overview of what these cars do, because what's important for me or what works for me in a car may not be what's important to you or what works for you in a car. And so the idea is you get to see as many features and functions that I can show you, and then you can decide what works for you. So let's first start off with what the car looks like. Now, I think it's a very striking look. I think it's quite different looking. I really like it, but I do think it's one of those cars where you're either gonna like it or you're not gonna like it, which is personal taste and absolutely fair enough. One thing that I did definitely notice about the car when I first saw it in the flesh is it's a lot longer than I thought it was when I saw it in photos. So if you ever have the chance to go and see one like at a dealer or do a test drive, definitely worth having a look at that. Now this is the GT line rear wheel drive. I think there's 4 different models available in Australia, and this is sort of like not the entry level one, which is the Air one. This is the one just up, and I'll put some graphics on the screen now to show you the different trims and a few features and differences between them. This one, I believe, starts at just under $86,000. So that's, a bit of change. But now let's have a look at a few of the features. We'll start off with the key. So this is what they call the smart key. A few basic buttons. You've got your lock button. You've got your You've got your unlock button. That means lock that again. You then have a hold button for the boot. So if you hold this down, even with the car locked, you push the button and the boot opens. Something to be aware of, and I find this frustrating, but I can understand why Kia has done this. To then close the boot with the button on the remote, you have to hold the button down the whole time that it's closing. And if you let go of the button, it'll stop closing and give you a and then you push the button again, it'll actually open the boot up again, and then you have to click and hold and keep your finger on the button the whole time for it to close completely. Now, I find that inconvenient, but I can see from a safety point of view, you might be opening or closing the boot when you're not looking at it because you're using the remote, and therefore someone might be standing near the boot, and if someone shouts, "Hey, the boot's closing on me," it's going to stop right away because you've let go of the button. So I'm assuming they've done it for a safety reason, but just something to be aware of. Now, there's 3 other buttons on this remote, which unfortunately I can't show you how they work, and I'll explain. So this is a really cool feature. It's part of the smart parking functions. So the first button at the top is hold. If you hold that down, the car will turn itself on, and then you've got a button that can move the car forwards, and then a button that can move the car backwards. The idea behind this is that if you've parked in a particularly tight spot, or someone's parked you in, or something like that, without actually getting into the car, you can turn the car on, move the car forward or backwards in or out of the parking spot. The reason why I can't show you that is for some reason it's not working with the remote that Kia gave me. I had a chat with a mate of mine who owns one of these, and he said, like, I sort of showed him a video going, "I'm pushing all the buttons and doing one again, it's not working." And he said, "Look, you're doing everything you should be doing." He said what it is that you get 2 keys with the car, and sometimes one of those keys, those functions aren't activated. So it looks like when Kia loaned me the car, they gave me the key that wasn't activated. What I will do is I'll try and get, by the way, sorry, Flies, Australia. What I will try and do is talk to Kia and see if I can get a loan of another one of these cars with a key that is activated, and I'll do a separate video of all the auto park functions. If I am able to do that, there'll be a link in the corner up above here that you can go watch that video. Another cool feature of this key is that it has auto sense things. So if you've got the key in your pocket and the car is locked, you can actually walk away from the car a little bit, and I'm not sure how far away you have to get, so we'll see how this works. And then as you walk towards the car with the key in your pocket, the car should sense that you have walked towards it, and the car will automatically unlock. Of course, it hasn't worked now because I'm on camera trying to do it. So I'm going to get the camera to follow me. I'm going to walk much further away, and we'll see how this works. And I think this is a fair distance away. Ironically, while we were setting up the cameras, it kept doing it. So I know it can do it, but it just doesn't. So I'm going to go ahead, unlock the car, lock the car, and then with the key in my pocket, I'm going to casually walk back to the car, and we're going to see how this works. And if it doesn't work this time, which it hasn't, I'm just going to show you some B-roll of when this worked yesterday and we were filming yesterday. So take my word for it, it works, but it doesn't work when you're filming. So maybe it doesn't work just when there's cameras around. The last little thing that I want to talk about with the key, and this is a bit of a downside, is that even though it does this auto unlock when you walk towards the car, it doesn't do an auto lock when you walk away from the car, which I don't understand why it wouldn't do that. Maybe there's a security reason or a safety reason, but I think that's definitely something that's been missed. While we're talking about remote stuff, something else that could be better with this car is that Kia has quite a good app called the Kia Connect app, which allows you to turn on and off the air conditioning remotely from the phone. I think you can use the phone as your key, so you don't have to carry the key. Lots of little things like that. The Kia EV6 in Australia does not support the Kia Connect app, which is really unfortunate. So there's not, oh, it's coming later, blah, blah. No, if you buy this car right now, it doesn't support it. Now, apparently the 2024 model, the one that's coming in 2024, will support the Kia Connect app. So if that's something that's really important, you maybe hold off for that. But that's definitely something to be aware of. The next thing I want to show you is in the front of the car. So let me just quickly unlock the car. Nice feature, it's got these self-revealing handles. So as you lock the car, the handles go in. As you unlock the car, the handles come out. There is actually a little hole here for a key. I'm not sure what that's for because there doesn't seem to be like a mechanical key on this. Maybe it's for mechanical stuff. So to open up the front, with traditional cars, there's a little handle down here. And then there's also a little latch just down here in the front in the middle. Again, very traditional car. And you lift this up. And because this is an electric car, they can actually fit some storage space in here. It's not huge, but I'm very grateful to have it. So if we just lift this up, now as you can see, it's not huge. You probably couldn't fit a full-size carry-on in there, but you could easily fit like a little backpack or something like that in there, no problem whatsoever. And again, I don't understand any electric car that doesn't have a front boot or a Frunk or a Frunk. So I'm glad that at least you do have something in here. And then to close the front, you just push it down like a traditional car. Now let's go and have a look at the boot. Now, as you can see, it's an interesting car in the sense that I think Kia might say that this is a crossover, it's an SUV. I'd say the Kia EV6 is almost somewhere between an SUV crossover and a hatchback. Having said that, this is, I think, a really well-sized boot. I do like how you've got the parcel shelf and it's very easy to pull back, handle there, and then drop forward like this. A nice feature with the parcel shelf is you can actually put that in the under trunk here. Now, if I lift that up, you can see that we do have a little bit of an under trunk, and I've got some cables and chargers and things like that in here. And how you get the parcel shelf into the under trunk is you just pull the corner, you pull this side out, and then flip it around like this. I'm just going to put it sort of in there, and then there's a little bit of plastic over here. So if you lift this and then lift that plastic up and then lift the under trunk, you can then slide the parcel shelf in like that, which is pretty cool. Now you can't fit this in there, so I do have to take this out. And while I've got this, what this had inside it, the vehicle to load connector, which is really cool. Now, vehicle to load is this feature that allows you to power things off of the car, and I'll go into more detail about that later. But for example, lighting is always a challenge when you're filming a boot. So I've actually got Archie, and I'm just going to film this with my phone. I've got Archie over there with a really bright light lighting the boot so we can see how well lit the boot is. And that light is being powered by the car over there, which is pretty darn cool. So that's that. Now let's have other little bits of the boot. A little bit clean, and then you can put this little bit of plastic back down, and Bob's your uncle. Let me just put this parcel shelf back. Oh, and actually both corners can go in and out, so that's good. Let me flip that round. And then to put it back, there are little sort of indents in the wall there. Oh, and you can put it further back as well. That's cool. So I just put it further back because there's forward and back ones. Mandy was very keen for me to mention that there are 3 tether points over here on the back seats, so you can actually fit 3 car seats, and they've sort of thought about that. You then have these handles on this side and on this side, and I like the fact that it's got an R and an L, so that is to lower the back seat from the boot. So I like the fact that you've got that ability to lower from the boot. You then have these handles here for a net, and this thing down here is actually if your charge port gets you know, if for whatever reason you can't unplug the charger and the charger's stuck, as it were, you can open this up, and there's a little manual pull there that you can manually pull that, and that will release the charge port. So that's good to know about. You also then have another 12-volt connector in here, and the granny charger, which is, you know, for the super slow charging, but allows you to plug the car just into a normal plug socket. Yeah, that's pretty much it with the boot and the features of the boot in the Kia EV6. Oh, by the way, you can adjust the height of the boot with this button. So if you push that, let it lower itself, push it again, push and hold, wait for it to give you a beep, and now this is the height that's been set for the height of the boot. And then to readjust it, you just put it up to the height that you want it, or the normal height, and then push and hold, and that now has set that there. And that is all the features I think you can look at in the boot of the Kia EV6. So that's a look at the boot. Now let's have a quick look at the charge port. Now the charge port is over here on the right-hand side. I would have preferred it being on the left-hand side, because a lot of other electric cars do have their charge port on the left-hand side, and therefore when you're going to different charging locations, particularly the Tesla ones, you need to park this a little bit differently to get the really short cable to reach the charge port. So it would be nice if it was on the other side, but again, not the end of the world. To open up the charge port, you can do it from within the car, or you just push on it like that, and huzzah, it opens. There's your AC charging port. You've got the little plastic holder for the DC charging, so for the fast charging. I like that you've got like a little bar to show how much charge there is, and it sort of flashes when you're charging. It would be nice to have a digital display and just have percentage. Not the end of the world, but would be nice. This button down here is to release the charging cable. So the charging cable, when you put it in, does lock in here once it's charging, so people can't just pull it out. You can change the settings on that, whether it's able to be pulled out when it finishes charging, or whether it's locked in as long as the car is locked. And then this button flies. And then this button here is just to close the charge port. Easy as that. Now, a really cool feature of the Kia EV6, and this is true of, I think, a lot of electric Kias and the Hyundais, is they've got a function called vehicle to load. And basically what vehicle to load is it allows you to use the massive battery in here to power things that are outside of here. So let me show you how that works. So you open up the charge port, he says confidently. There we go, we open up the charge port, and this is the vehicle to load adapter that the car comes with. So let's just open that sucker up. And so there you go, it's got the charge port over there, and so you pop that into the vehicle. The vehicle does need to be unlocked for this, and then you may have just heard that, so that's locked that in there now, so that's now locked in, so that's good. You then open this bit up by just pulling this down, and down in here there is a standard power plug. Now I'm using an extension cord just because the power plug of the light that I'm going to show you working with this angles up like that, so I couldn't fit it in there, so that's why I'm using the extension cord. And I'm going to power something fairly small. This is a 100-watt light, which is actually pretty darn powerful. But then we can just go and plug that in. And then, very important, because the first time I tried this, I was standing around here going, why is it not working? Why is it not working? There's an on button, so you push that on. I just heard the car beep, and I'll show you this in the car settings. You can set the car settings for this so that you can have it so that the car won't use more than an X% of its battery for the vehicle to load. So you can have things plugged in for quite some time, but you can say to the car, when you get to 20%, stop giving power off of the vehicle to load. And what this is rated to is this can push out as much as 3.5 kilowatts. Now, to give you an idea in terms of perspective what that might mean, my house, and we've got 2 fridge freezers running all the time. We could have the aircon going with the fridge freezers and lights and just the basic house going. It normally uses about 0.7 kilowatts, and this can do 3.5, 3.6. So you could actually plug this into your house, run an air fryer, run the air conditioner. I mean, I don't know how you plug that in, but you get the idea. So imagine if in a natural disaster you lose power, you could actually get a power board into this and at least keep the fridge and the freezer going so you don't lose all your food and stuff like that. It's a phenomenally useful thing. Even if you're just going camping, you could plug a fridge or, you know, a induction cooktop or whatever. And so if I just turn that light on, again, you're not really going to see us because I've got the brightest light in the world directly above me being the sun, but I can turn this light all the way up to 100%, and I don't know how much brightness I'm going to get out of this, but you can see right there. So this is a ridiculously bright light, and if we just, I shine that at the camera, you really get an idea of just how bright that light really is. This is a phenomenal feature, and I think every electric car should have it. And now I'm going to get my assistant, who's far more of an expert on back seats, to give you a look at the back seat area of the car.
Hi, my name's Archie, and my dad thought that it would be a good idea for me to tell you guys about the back seat because I spend every single trip here and my dad does not. So let's start with how much room there is. It's so spacious. So like, let's go into this. Let's go into the second thing, the air vents. There are air vents on both sides. You can adjust them for your needs. And this, like, spin, this, like, makes it, the power stronger and weaker. As you can see, I'm moving it. This is strong, this is weak. And then next, there are like little pouches in the back of the seats in the front. So you can like put stuff here. And then let's move on to the next thing. There are USB ports on the back of the front seats. Yep. So you can charge your like devices. And if you ever do get one, you can look down under the middle chair and there's like a laptop plug. So behind this is a normal electric plug. You can plug a laptop in, use it. You can use it. And then and now let's go on to the armrest. As you can see, there's as well as a cup holder in the front, and if your bottles can't fit in there, like mine can't, you can push this back like this and put it there like this. That's pretty much all we have to say for that. Because this is an electric car, it doesn't need drive shafts, which means there's a flat floor in the back for all your floor needs. So if someone was sitting in the middle like I am right now, which I just moved to, so you can put your feet on the ground and you don't, without hunching up. There are headrests on the back. As you see, they can move up and down. There is a button to push them down, to put them down, and you have to push down while you're pushing the button. So the button is just here, where below my finger. There are two positions for the seats, which are like this and a bit more relaxed like this. And how you do that is that there's a handle on the bottom of the seat. So now that I've explained everything in the back that you possibly need to know, let's go back to my dad.
Before going into this next section, I do want to give you a heads up that this next section is quite detailed, and that's being diplomatic. So if you do want to skip ahead, I have bookmarked the living daylights out of it, so you can skip ahead if you find that there's stuff that isn't particularly interesting to what you're interested in seeing. Welcome to the driver's seat of the Kia EV6. Now, there's a lot going on here, so let's get right into it. I like this cabin. I mean, there's not a lot of difference in a lot of cabins, but the chair is pretty darn comfortable. The first thing to look at is this center console, which I like the look of it. There's a couple of things about it which I think are a little impractical, but I do like the look of it. First thing on here, as we sort of move our way up, you've got this little pocket in here, which is nice. You can keep keys or batteries or what have you. You've got two decent sized cup holders, and they do fit my rather large water bottle, and Mandy and I both had one of them in each, and it's got little plastic sort of holding so it doesn't bounce around. And the doors, while we're here, the side doors do have a nice pocket that fit my water bottle as well. You have a wireless charging pad for your phone, so you can just pop that down there. You then have a few buttons and your gear selector. You've got your camera button, you've got your auto hold, you've got your auto park button, you've got your dial, so that's change it into drive, change it into reverse, back to neutral. You got your park button. You then got your power button, which we'll get to in a moment. Actually, we may as well get to the power button now. So this is an on-off button. It's interesting. I have a few thoughts about the on-off button. I think coming from a car that doesn't have an on-off button, you know, the car that my daily drive, you just get in and the car's on and you get going. It sort of feels a little bit redundant, but I can understand that most people are not coming from a car that has no power button. Most people these days would be coming either from a car that has keys that you turn on and off, or you have a start-stop button. So I can see the logic of a little bit of familiarity to that. And while we're here, we may as well push it. So there's two ways to activate the car with the power button. The first one is if you want to get straight into driving, you put your foot on the brake and you push the on button, and that turns the car on and also puts it into the drive mode. And you get this lovely display over here, and you go, yep, I'm going to drive safely, I can confirm that. And then right away you can put the car into gear and reverse or what have you, and away you go, put it into drive and so on, and then back into neutral. So that's the quick way of getting the car on. Now to switch the car off, again, you just push the power button again and bloop, the car switches off. The other way to use the power button is a two-stage method. So if you don't put your foot on the brake, you push the power button once, that turns on what you would call the accessory mode. And so this allows you to access all of the car stuff without going into the drive mode and all the functionality. So you still have your display, everything still works, but you don't have the drive. So then to get the car into the drive mode, you push the button a second time, and that now puts the car into drive mode. And so now the car, yes, I know I don't have my seatbelt on, thank you very much. And now the car's on, as it were. Yeah, so that's cycling through all of those. Now I'm just going to put the car off and then put it back into accessory mode so that we're not having it in drive mode while we're parked. And I'm trying to show you stuff in here. So there we go. The car is on, and then finishing off the center console, you have these lovely buttons here. Your center one is for your heated steering wheel, and you've got basically just on or off for that. And it looks like I have to put the car into proper mode for the heated steering wheel. I suppose you're driving, so that makes sense. You then have your heated seats. It looks like none of these work in the accessory mode. So I have to push the power button a second time, get the car on, as it were. And now, there we go. So now my heated steering wheel can work. My heated seats, and there's 3 settings, so it goes on to full by default. Then you go 1, 2, 3 to put it all the way down. You also have ventilated seats. And let me tell you, I really, really like these ventilated seats. They ventilate very well. So that's a really nice feature. And Yeah, I think that's a very worthwhile feature. Again, you have 3 settings there, 1, 2, and 3 to turn it off. Well, 1, 2, I suppose. 1, 2, yeah, 1, 2, 3. And that is this center console here. Now, the thing that oh, sorry, I forgot. There's also a storage bin down here, and as you can see, it's quite deep, so you can fit quite a lot of things in. In fact, I've got a monopod, and I've got some batteries, and I've got my 360 camera and a bunch of things in there, so you can fit quite a lot. You can see that's quite a long selfie stick, and fits in there just fine. So that's that. Now, underneath this, I like the design, like I like the look of this. So you've got this rather large bin down here, and you can see I'm storing quite a few things here. I've got, you know, a suction cup, and oh, there's my tape. I was wondering where my blue tape had gone. I've got my sunglasses thing. By the way, cool sunglasses. Not a sponsored link, but I do have an affiliate link for these. So these are, I know this is a bit random, but some people mentioned these are ridiculously light glasses. They're designed specifically for aviators. The reason why I've got them specifically is a lot of the work that I do, I'm on set, we're filming, I've got headphones on the whole day, and having cans on with normal glasses, this bit here is quite thick, and so first of all it breaks the seal of the overhead headphones, but also it gets really uncomfortable, whereas these are so thin that I can wear headphones all day and they're super comfortable. And then you get these really cool magnetic sunglass attachments for them, so ta-da! Yeah, I'm a big fan. I don't know why I went on that random tangent. I do have a discount. This is not a sponsored thing, but I do have a discount code for them. It's on my website, EV Easy. You can, flyingeyeoptics.com. You can check them out. It's a bit random. Anywho, so yeah, so there's this bucket here, and I like the bucket. Like I said, I like the design. I like the bucket. The thing that I don't particularly think is good is that it feels like it looks cool, but it feels like a bit of wasted space, because if this was, you know, walled off, you could have a much deeper bucket. But I suppose then how would you get into it? You'd have to lift this, and okay, never mind. I can see how they've done the best they could. Then also, while we're down here, you've got your 12-volt connector there if you need to plug any 12-volt stuff in, the old lighter plug we used to call them. And then you've got multiple USB ports here. So you've got USB-C over there, which is power. You've got a USB-C, which is power over there, and then you've got a USB-A here, and that says USB as opposed to power. And I believe that is because the ones with the little power symbol on them, the USB-C ones, those are powered only. So those are not for data. You can't plug your phone and have it work with the car like that. But with the USB one, you can use that one to plug your phone in, and that will give you Apple CarPlay or Android Auto. You can see there it's reading USB device, and now that I've got that plugged in, you can see here on the display that I do have Apple CarPlay. And so you have lovely Apple CarPlay and all the apps that you want to use. So if you want to use Waze, if you want to use PlugShare, WebEx, I don't know why you want to do a WebEx on here, but go to town. Google Maps if you prefer those, Easy CarPlay. So you've got all these things, and then if you want to get out of CarPlay, you just tap on the Kia button. That gets you out of CarPlay. So that is those buttons there. A lot of buttons to get through, but we like buttons, so let's get through all the buttons first, and then we'll get onto the display and all the stuff that you can do in there. Over on the door, you've got your standard child lock on off, so that's child lock on, child lock off. You've got your Windows buttons, you then got your lock and unlock button. The top button here is actually for folding in your mirrors, which you can only do when you're parked, obviously. And then you've got your mirror adjustments. If you go left, or if you go right, and then you can adjust the mirrors up and down, sideways. One thing to note, these mirrors are, they dip when you put the car in reverse, but I believe that only works when you have the mirror button either pushed to the left or to the right. So if we've got it to the center, and then if I put the car in reverse, he says confidently, why is it not? Okay, let's put it into park. What? No, don't go into neutral, go into bloody reverse. Okay, I'm doing something wrong. Maybe I've left the car on for too long. I have noticed that it does this from time to time, that you switch the car on, you think you're good to go, and then you're not. So let's go ahead and go straight into the drive modes. Yeah, and there we go, reverse. So I've put the car into reverse now with the button held in the center and nothing's happened. If I go and put the car back into park and then I push that button over to the left and now put the car into reverse, now the mirrors auto adjust down. So just a good little side thing to note, if you do want the mirrors to adjust down when you put the car in reverse, you do have to have this button over to the left or to the right. You then have your seat memory buttons, and there's lots of cool things you can do with the seats. It is a powered seat, and you have powered seats for the passenger and the driver. All your stock standard sort of things, so you can make the seat go up in the back, you can make it down in the back, you can go up in the front, you can make it down in the front, you can make it go forwards, you can make it go back, you can lean back, you can lean forwards, and then to save, you just hold the button and it saves the setting. But a really cool feature of the seat is this button over here. And what this does is if you are charging the car and you want to have a bit of a relax, you push the button once, you hold the button down once, it says please make sure there's nothing in the way, and then you push the button again. And it puts you into a very chilled, relaxed lie down and have a bit of a kip mode. And yeah, so this is kind of, I like that there's an actual button for this, and then to bring it on back, you have to reach a little bit with really short arms like mine, push the front of the button, and it brings you forward, which is pretty, yeah, I'm easily impressed, but I quite like that. The steering wheel is manually adjusted, so there's a handle down there, and you can adjust it up, forwards, back, down, and around. I'm just going to make it about there. Yep, that's good for me. You then have some buttons down here. You have, I presume that's traction control. I think that's what the cool kids call it. A park brake as well. You have your charge port buttons. If I hold that down, that will open my charge port, and it warns me that the charge door is open, and you push it again and that closes the charge port. You have your boot opener, so if you hold that button down, that will then open the boot for you, and you get a nice little graphic showing you that the boot is open. And then you push that again. And now this is interesting, when you're closing the boot, you have to keep your finger on the button. So on the one hand, it's quite inconvenient because it's a bit of a pain to have to keep your finger on the button, but I can understand why that works that way, because it's a safety thing. Because if someone goes, hey, it's closing on me, you can quickly just lift your hand off the button and you're not closing on people, which is a good thing. Now, you then have this touch display down here, which is on the one hand your air con and all that kind of stuff, but you can tap on that button over there, and this then brings up your nav controls. So you can then bring up your media, you can bring up your maps, you can bring up all sorts of stuff with that, but I quite like just leaving it on the standard climate control. And a couple of things I like about it, I like the fact that it's got rear and front, and it says the word rear and front, because I know most people know what that is and what that isn't, but again, I'm easily confused, and sometimes I can't remember which one's the front and which one's the back, so I like that you have manual controls over that. On the steering wheel, you've got your adaptive cruise control button. You've got your, this changes the following distance. This is your lane keep assist. This is to adjust the adaptive cruise. You've then got your mode button. So this will change the modes and the display in your dashboard. Over on the right hand side, you have a mode button, which is adjustable. I've obviously got it set at the moment to my music button. You have your voice. I don't know what to say now. Okay, so that brings up your voice assistant, and now that brings up your voice assistant with your phone. So you know that'll give you the old she who will not be named. You got your call button, so you can stop and start calls. You will then have a customizable star button, and that will do whatever you've got set to. So I've got it set to bring up the EV window of the car. And then you've got your volume controls, and I'm turning off the audio just by pushing that. And that's your seek, so you know, forward and back. Final thing on the steering wheel, you've got a mode button, and this mode will switch you between eco, sport, and normal modes. You can see there in the menus that I can go to eco, which your eco mode will, you know, give you maximum regen. It won't give you that much oomph, but you're driving most economically. You've got normal, which is just normal, and then you've got sports mode, which might not be quite as economical to drive in, but if you need a bit of pep, you know, you can put it down into sports mode. Finally, you've got your stalks on the right hand side. You've got your indicators, and on the left hand side you've got your windscreen wipers, fairly stock standard. Now let's have a look at our touch display over here, which gives you all of your settings. Now you can see down there when I touch it that you've got three little menus. I don't know if you can see that too clearly, but you've got three things there, and this gives you all of your EV controls, but I don't want to show you that just yet. And so if I flick across like that, this brings me into my menus. If I flick across once more, that brings you over to your manual. Now one thing, it's funny, when I first saw this, oh, they put the manual on the car, that's really cool. No, you tap on that, it brings up a QR code, so you can scan that and bring up the manual on your phone. So look, it gives you quick access to the manual, let's say that. Now, let's have a look through all of these. Now, I'm not going to go through these in enormous detail, but I'm going to scan through these so you've got an idea of most of the settings. And I actually want to start with the settings of the car. So this is more the vehicle settings, and we tap on vehicle. You can see that the first thing it shows you is all the driver assistance stuff, and so you can see the forward safety, attention span, speed limit, lane, and you've got the settings over here on the left hand side, but you can jump to any of these things by tapping on them. So for example, if we want parking safety, we tap on that and that takes us to the parking safety settings. And so you can see here that with the camera settings, we can go and adjust the settings there. You can always just go back. If you're familiar with Android, it's very much an Android-y kind of interface. You can see here you've got rear warning only, off, cross traffic warning. So this is really good. So when you're backing out, if there's cars coming behind you, it'll give you a warning like, hey, there's a car coming. Park rear assist, surround view monitor. You've got lane safety. So again, this will actually three different settings. You can have it off. You can tell it so it'll only warn you when the car is drifting into another lane, or alternatively, you can actually have it when you're getting into the lane, the car will actually sort of steer you a little bit back into the lane. It takes a bit of getting used to, but since I'm used to this with the car that I drive regularly, I actually like the fact that it sort of steers you back into the lane. If you're not used to it, it can be a bit, oh, what's going on? My perspective, give it a try, see how you go. I like it. Yeah, so that's some of the attention stuff. If we have a look at the speed limit settings, actually, you know what, let me just go through this from the top here. So you've got driver assistance, you've got drive mode, and so this will, you can put on eco climate control. So again, it uses less energy. You can go in your brake mode, so you've got sport or, so sportive braking, responsive, optimized for dynamic driving. Isn't that lovely terminology, let's say. You've got active sound design, so this will actually, you know, talking about the kind of sounds that the car makes when it's driving, and so you can turn it off, or if we go into advanced settings, you've actually got different types of sounds that the car can make, so like that it makes. So you can have stylish, you can have dynamic, you can have cyber. Ooh, I wonder what cyber is. And you can actually have custom, so you could add your own custom sound from here, so you can adjust how it all works. And so the selected sound style modified by adjusting the master volume and accelerator pedal response. So you can see how, I'm going to stop embarrassing myself, but yeah, so I like how you can go in and sort of really customize all of that, which is pretty cool. You then have your heads-up display, and this is, oh, the fact that this is the first car I've ever tried out with a heads-up display, and I like it a lot. So heads-up display, if you're not familiar, is I can actually see, so there's like a projector down here in the front, and it's projecting a display onto the window, and so you can adjust some settings for that. What it shows you at the moment is the speed limit, your speed, and if the lane keeper stuff is turned on. So you can turn it on, and you've got two modes here. You've got augmented reality mode, and what this does is that in terms of directions, when you've got the maps on, it'll show you like arrow keep going forward. You can see the arrow keep going forward, or arrow go, there's going to be a turn coming up, or arrow turn right away to the left or the right. So that's the augmented reality mode. Standard mode, fairly similar, but for the navigation stuff, it'll actually show you like the map type stuff. So it'll go, you know, turn three kilometers, turn right, that kind of thing. What I also like is that the nav in the car is actually really, really good, and we'll show you that when we go out for a drive. But the thing that I like, one of the things I like about the nav is that, like, when there's a turn-off coming on, like if you're on the highway, it'll tell you, you know, get over into the far left-hand lane because there's a turn coming up, or the highway merges and you need to be in the far 3 lanes, not the far 2 left lanes on the left or right side. And it shows you that in the standard mode. So depends on what you prefer. I quite like the standard mode, and then you can have the heads-up display off completely if it bothers you and you find it distracting. And this is one of the things that I don't particularly love about the car. This is something I think that Kia could definitely improve, particularly in software, because I think hopefully it's just a software thing, is that there's this customizable button on the steering wheel, the star button. You're very limited in terms of the things that you can bind to that star button. And I'd love to be able to bind turning the heads-up display on or off with the star button, because I like having the heads-up display while I'm driving most of the time. But if I'm, let's say, getting on the highway and now, you know, we're going straight for another 10, 20 kilometers, I'd actually like to turn it off from time to time, or there'd be times when it's kind of blending into the car that's in front of me, like if there's, because the display is white, like the lines and stuff are white, and if there's a white car like in that line of sight, it can get a bit so it'd be nice if I could switch it off and on really easily just with a button on the steering wheel, but unfortunately that's not the case. You have to have it on or off here, and I don't want to, you know, be futzing about this while I'm driving, so I'd like to just an on or off on the steering wheel. But again, room for improvement. You've got display control, so this is where you can set it. It'll sync automatically to the seating position. So if I lower the seat or raise the seat, it's actually adjusting a little bit with how I move the seat. But you can come in here and manually control it, and so you can adjust it, and so you can rotate it a little bit left or right, sort of like with the horizon, if your sight is that way inclined. You can also move it up or down in the display. I find you don't want to move it too far down because there is sort of like a cutoff point, and I find that if I move it too far down, again, I'm short, I actually can't see the bottom of it, so I do need to move it up a little bit. I'm not quite sure why, but you can't seem to move it left or right. Yeah, I'd like to be able to move it left or right, so it's either in my vision when I want in my vision, or I can move it out a little bit so it's in my peripheral, but it's not right in my vision. And obviously you can adjust how bright it is, all the way down to very, very dim, all the way up to very, very bright. And I'd suggest most of the time have it on very, very bright. Actually, I need to move it up a little bit more because I am quite short. And then finally, you've got content selection. You can see what stuff it's going to show you. So you can see turn info, whether it's going to show you turn info or not. You see driving convenience. So again, like your driver assist, it'll show you when you've got your cruise control on, it'll show you the cruise control and the speed that you've set the cruise control to, which is really useful. Blind spot warning. So it'll give you the little symbol there to show you when someone's in your blind spot. I quite like all of those. The radio and media, I can live without that. So that one I definitely have switched off. Now, you then have all the settings for your cluster. So this is the display that's in front of you. So you can adjust the brightness of the display in front of you. You can adjust the camera settings on there. You can adjust a blue light filter. So a blue light filter, the idea behind this is that when you're driving at night, or even I suppose during the day it could do this, a reduction of eye strain by limiting the blue emissions that are outside when the brightness is low. So if you turn that on, it'll adjust. Yeah, you can see there that it's made the screen a bit orangey tinny, almost sepia, and then you can go all the way to less warm. But doesn't bother me that much. You can have it start, stops. You can have it on or off at different times. Let's go back one more. You've got your cluster theme. So again, you can link that to drive mode. So whatever the drive mode is, it'll adjust a little bit. You can have welcome sound, energy consumption resets. You can reset energy consumption, and this will just reset after each charge. So I prefer having it that way. You've got content selection. So again, you can decide what kind of information. If you kind of go, well, I don't really want my blind spot mirroring in there, you can turn that off. You can have icy road warning. I mean, look, I live in Victoria. We get icy roads sometimes. Welcome sound. Oh, I can turn that off. Okay. Well, there you go. So the little bing bong bing when you turn it on as you start the car up, you can turn that off. Jolly good. I hadn't gone that far down into the settings. You got your climate control. Again, not going to go through this too much, but like for example, your defog, your auto defog, you can have those off or on, but you have them on automatic. You got seat settings. So heat, seating, and ventilation. I wonder what settings we've got in there. Automatic controls linked to climate control. Okay, cool. That's kind of cool. You got your light settings, so you can adjust what your lights do. Door settings, lock, auto lock. Now, I do like this feature here. So door handles will rise and unlock when the smart key is nearby. So as you walk towards the car with the key in your pocket, the car will unlock. And you can have that also with the power tailgate, can be used automatically when the car. So this is a good one to come and check, because the lock and unlock buttons on the key might not work the way you think they do, and it could just be that you haven't set this up correctly. There's this cool feature, and I tried it, and it's kind of cool. Yeah. So what this does is, so smart tailgate, the tailgate will automatically open when approaching the tailgate with a smart key. So if you've got the key in your pocket, the idea behind this is, let's say you've got, your hands are full of shopping bags and you walk up to the car, and if you've got the key in your pocket, you walk up to the boot, you stand there for about 5 or 10 seconds, could be a bit quicker, and the boot will automatically open up. So that's pretty cool. And then convenience. Well, we all love convenience, don't we? So you can have rear occupant alert. So if someone's if the rear door is open, the driver's reminded to check the rear seats for passengers. Wireless charging system. So this is, for some reason, they think you might want to not have the wireless charging work. I don't understand why you'd want to turn that off, but you can, I guess. I'm a bit confused as to why you would want to turn that off, but anywho. So those are all the vehicle settings. That's quite a lot. Then we've got the EV settings. So this is where you set your charge rate. Now, something to be aware of is that a lot of electric cars, the way that their battery technology works is, you're actually recommended to only charge the battery up to 80% on a regular basis. The reason for that is that if you leave the battery charged up to 100% all the time, that can degrade the capacity of the battery over 10, 15 years and so on. So to optimize the battery life of the vehicle, it's recommended to only charge up to 100% when you're going on a long drive. So what you would probably do here, now DC charging is the fast charging, so you'd probably want to get up to 100% most of the time when you're doing fast charging. But with AC charging, which is like the slow charging that you would do at home, you'd probably only want to set it to 80%. So when you're charging just slowly at home, the car will get to 80% and it won't charge past 80%, and that will extend the battery life of the battery. I've got it set to 100 just because I'm testing the car, and I'll give it back and I'll let them set it to whatever they like. Now, charging current. And this one, I don't like this one. I do and I don't. So this is where you set how fast the car charges when it's plugged into a slower wall charger at home, like a 7 kilowatt charger or an 11 kilowatt charger if you've got 3-phase. Now, here's the thing I don't like about it, is that you've only got 3 options here. You've got maximum, you've got reduced, and you've got minimum. So for example, our charger at home here, that'll charge at 7 kilowatts at the maximum. But if I'm not getting a lot of solar and it's not the middle of the day or there's a cloud coming over the house, I want the car to only charge at maybe 1 kilowatt or maybe 2 kilowatts. The minimum here, which is the lowest you can set it to, is 4 kilowatts. So I can only set it to the minimum of 4 kilowatts. I can't set it to lower than that. With other cars that I've tried, you can actually do this far more granularly. So you can go like 1 kilowatt, 2 kilowatts, 3 kilowatts, 4 kilowatts, 7 kilowatts, whatever. Whereas this, you've only got, max, reduced, and minimum. I'm not a huge fan of that. I would prefer to have more manual controls, but better than nothing, I suppose. Winter mode, this will give you better battery performance in the winter. It'll adjust battery stuff and what have you. Utility mode, this is when you are using vehicle to load. And it's nice that you've got sort of a few manual controls over this. I'll show you the other ones in a bit, but so use high voltage battery to power electronic devices connected to the vehicles. Audio, lights, etc. can be used when parked for a long period of time. To deactivate utility mode, press the start button. So utility mode, basically what it's saying to the car is, hey, I know you're not driving, and I know I've left the car on, but I've left the car on for a reason, so don't switch the battery off, or, give the battery, don't switch yourself off, but don't go into power saving mode because I'm using the power, even though I'm not driving the car. Smart reduction. Now this is the one pedal driving or regenerative braking, which it's called. So you've got paddles on the steering wheel to control the regenerative braking. For those who are not familiar with what regenerative braking is, how electric cars, one of the cool things that electric cars do is that if you want to slow an electric car down, you can use the brakes. Still has brakes. There's still a brake pedal. You're absolutely good to go with that. But you can also use regenerative braking. And what that does is that slows the wheels down, and it takes the kinetic energy of the wheels slowing down and it puts that energy back in the battery. And here you can adjust how strong that is. And why that's important is that how it works is if you've ever driven a golf cart, as you lift your foot off the accelerator, the car will actually slow down. So like, push to go forward, but as you lift, the car slows down. And if you take your foot right off the accelerator, the car will slow down quite dramatically. And here you can adjust it so it's very dramatic, medium dramatic, or very soft dramatic. So this will adjust those settings, and you can adjust it with the paddles on the steering wheel. So the right hand pedal will make it less and the left hand pedal will make it more. Now that's not doing anything because I'm not in my drive mode, but when I'm in drive, it'll adjust those. And I'll show you that more when we're actually driving. When we scroll up, you then got charging connector locking mode. So this will dictate whether the car will always lock the charge port. So basically if you plug the car in, as soon as you plug the car in, it's locked and it'll only unlock when you unlock the doors. Or you can have it so that the connector will lock when standard charging starts, but it will unlock when the charging is complete. Up to you. If you want it so that no one can ever sort of unlock the car or get your charging cable out, have it always lock. But then if you want it so that you can just sort of pull that out when you need to, you can. Then you've got Audible Charging info. Now this is, I'm going to have this on for you so you can hear it, and I'll play some sound of it now. When you plug the car in, the car basically kind of goes, plugged in, or charging now. And so, I think, I actually think it's good. And here's why I think it's good, is that when you do it that way when the car actually starts charging, oh, okay, I've done all the right things and the car's actually charging and I can sort of chill. So that's the good element of that thing. Now navigation, fairly straightforward. It's map stuff, so you can see vehicle speed, traffic info. Here's where you can decide what it shows you. You can ask it to show you EV charging stations. That's really nice because it'll show you where there's any near charges. Also, you can have it to say auto display when charging is needed. So if you've put in navigation and said, right, well, I want to drive to Sydney, it'll tell you, hey buddy, you're not going to make it to Sydney. Here are the charging stations that you need to stop in. And there you can see here where it'll show you ultra rapid, which is like 350 kilowatts, DC charger. So that's anything that's a DC charger, or AC charger. So I've got it set to show me all of them. voiceoverly here to make a correction. I was actually wrong when I said that it shows what charging stops you need to stop along the way. So I've actually re-recorded a section about the maps, and I'm going to insert it here for you, which should explain everything better. So you've got a few options here with the map. So if you go into menu, you can see nearby info, and it gives you points of interest, point of interest category. You can see EV range. This is quite cool. So this will actually show you the range of your vehicle, and you can see, you know, basically how far you can go. And so for example, if we said, right, we want to navigate to probably somewhere not in the water, it'll calculate that. Now, unfortunately, if you're navigating to a place that you don't have enough energy in the battery to get there, it'll say battery charge is insufficient to reach your destination, visit charging station nearby. So you can search for stations and it'll go ahead and find charging stations nearby. But the thing is, a full charge is not going to get us from Melbourne to Adelaide, so you will need charging along the route. And so here you can go along route and you can see which charging stations are available. You can see near current position, near destination, favorite station, set those as destinations, and then you can just go from station to station. So you can work it all out in here, or you could work it out in PlugShare, but you can go also by name, by distance, and you've got quite a lot of options to set that up. It will tell you that charging is required, but it won't show you what actual charging destinations you should go to along the way. So you do want to work that out yourself, which is not really that big of a deal because you do have the charging stops that come up next to you on the car there. So it does show you where your nearest charging stop is. But that's interesting that you do need to find out where the charging stops along the way. It doesn't work that out for you. Not a big deal. A feature that I can't show you, unfortunately, because it just hasn't happened while I've been driving, but there is a really nice feature that the car will ding you if you're sitting in a set of lights and you might be staring out the window and not really paying attention, and the car in front of you starts driving forward. So I don't think it's actually looking at whether the lights have changed, but just if you're in traffic and you've stopped, you're in drive, and the car in front of you moves forward, a little thing comes up in the heads-up display and the car dings to say, hey, traffic's moving forward, pay attention, time for you to move forward. And then if we keep going down, you can see, right, show me parking, show me restaurants, food, cafes, all fairly straightforward. You've then got guidance. So again, you can go in here and really sort of nut down in terms of what sort of information it shows you. So show route details, show speed limits, guidance types. It can give you intervals, it can give you cumulative. And I think we'll cover a lot of this when we actually go for a drive, and I'm going to show you how the maps work. Camera alert settings, so you can have alerts for speed cameras and all that kind of stuff. Safety alerts, so if there's any sort of particular stuff coming up, you can see different ones coming up and you can have them show you all those things. You can have maps, so you can have different map modes, show 3D buildings, auto zoom, 3D heads up. I'm going to try that, see what that looks like. Vehicle symbol color, so you can have your vehicle look different. Oh, I quite like the blue. Yeah, let's go with the blue. And auto zoom settings, so again, you can change what the auto zoom settings are. There's all, you know, fairly stock standard stuff. Automated features, automatically return to map after scrolling. Oh, I like that actually, so let's have that on. Actually, no, let's have that set off. We have satellite, receiving, searching, sound. If you're into, you know, sound systems and all that kind of stuff, you can see here you've got quite a lot of settings with the sound stuff. So you can have natural sound, surround sound, you can customize the sound, go in here and you can, you know, go to town and have fun with that. I'm just going to stay with authentic. And, you know, position, so where the speakers go. You can have your equalizer, driving guidance, radio noise controls. You can have noise reduction. Oh, they've got noise reduction in here. The radio noise. Oh, I want to try that. Maximum noise reduction area with weak reception, but impacts on original sound possible. Interesting. Active sound design. So we covered this a little bit here. Driver assistance. So you can lower or turn off. Oh, I like that. And it gives you a. So that's loud, medium, low. Oh, I like that a lot. So you can actually, have that really loud or have it really soft or turn it off completely if you find those sounds actually distracting. So there we go. You can also have reverse warning, lowering of audio volumes when parking. Okay, so you can have it when you put it, yeah, okay. Lowering of all audio when safety warnings, no, we'll leave that off. Connected device, so you can have Android Auto and you can set the different settings for Android Auto. You can have the different settings for Apple CarPlay. And that is all the sound settings for you. Phone connection. So this is where you can connect your phone via Bluetooth. Fairly easy. Phone projection. That is the Android Auto and Apple CarPlay settings. Profile. So this is where you can set up a driver profile. You can see here that I have set up my own profile. You can see that I'm logged in. One little gripe, not a major gripe, but one little thing that I'd like is with the profile image, you can only choose between, you've got 11 options, so that's kind of nice, but you can't upload your own picture. It's, with all the software stuff, you'd think there'd be an option to upload my own picture. I don't know, like you can do it with sounds and stuff, so I don't know why you can't do it without that. Theme and layout. Now this is important. Now by default, normally the theme of the screen would be white like that, and normally when I'm driving I would have it set to white, but I've found that the camera back there, yeah, you struggles a little bit with the white, so showing off the white, and I've found that the black just looks better on camera. So for the purposes of that, I've set it to black for this, but you can actually set it to automatic, which, so basically if it gets dark, it'll change it to black. If it's light during the day, it'll have it on white. You can also set it to schedule, so it'll happen different times, but I'm going to set it to black now, but I will probably set it to white when I go out driving and we show you the driving stuff. Screensaver, there's a screensaver. Split screen, so this is quite kind of cool. So when you're in the maps or when you're in the EV section, you can have a little split screen over here on the right hand side, and here's where you can say what functions you want, and you can actually adjust where they show up. So it'll show you EV, it'll show you map, it'll show you compass, radio, clock, and you can adjust the order just by tapping and holding this burger button. And why it's called a burger button, just a little bit of nerdy thing. Normally there's 3 lines, and so bun, burger in the middle, burger button. So you can adjust it like that. And you can do the cluster theme. Again, you can link that. So what if that's set to black, that'll be black, that'll be white. Oh, you can change, yes, you can change it to the red or the white or so on. You can just drive mode. So as you change the drive mode with the drive button, it'll change. Display settings. We've covered this a little bit before, so I won't go over that again. Button. Now here is the customize button. So you've got customize button number 1, which is the start. When I go into nav settings on here, that star button, and I've got it set to Bluetooth audio, but you can have it to phone projection. So if I go phone projection, that's a quick and easy way to turn on Apple CarPlay or Android Auto. So I actually quite like having it set to that. So let me just go back to that, and yeah, so that's set to phone projection, but you can see here you're quite limited in terms of the things that you can have it do or not do. You then got the steering wheel button, so there we go. So the star button over on the steering wheel, I've got it set to bring up my EV mode. You can set it to turn on or turn off quiet mode. Now quiet mode is not what you might think it is. What quiet mode is it'll lower the volume or turn off the volume of the speakers in the back of the car. So if you're driving along and your bub's in the back trying to have a little bit of a nap, but you still want to listen to stuff, you turn on quiet mode and the speakers will try and only play the sound in the front of the car and not play the sound in the back of the car. Still useful, but I would have thought quiet mode would have just gone, just make everything quiet, And you got map stuff, and it's pretty much just map stuff, privacy mode, reject and end call, change hands-free device. So if you've got, select the device to use for hands-free calling when 2 Bluetooth phones are connected. So if you've got 2 phones connected at the same time, that's kind of cool. But there's no, or you can have it do nothing. I'd like if there was in here the option to, have it going to turning off the heads-up display, but anyway. And then you've got the mode button. So the mode button is the mode button on the right hand side of the steering wheel, and so you can have it go through Bluetooth audio, phone projection, sounds of nature. I love that, actually. So you can have the car make sounds of nature, which is kind of cool. USB music or USB video. Now So you can plug in a USB stick with some video on here to play on the screen. That is only while you're parked, obviously, not while you're driving. And then we have general settings. And so this shows you the version of the car, the system info, date and time, language, don't change that. Keyboard, units, so this if you do want to change it to Fahrenheit for whatever reason. Media settings, so all of the media settings, not too much in here, so you can radio on and off at start off. Now, so I have the radio off at vehicle startup, but you can have that turned on so that when you get in, the radio just comes on. I find that annoying, but each their own. And then with default, this is where you can reset everything back to factory default. And that is all the car setting stuff. Now let's have a quick look at the EV settings in here. So this is showing me the EV stuff, like the battery stuff. First one I want to show you here is EV charge transfer. So that's vehicle to load. So that again is, you know, being able to plug stuff in. And if you tap on that, it brings you into the EV settings. Something really cool that I want to show you is, watch this. When I turn the air conditioning on, my predicted charge range changes. So what this is showing me is that if I have just the climate control on without air conditioning, my range would be 362 kilometers, but with the air conditioning on, my range is only 358 kilometers. So I like that it shows you that whole, hey, the aircon's using a fair bit of battery. And then if we turn that off, that goes back to the same. You then have this little side out window. So you remember I said that would give you a little side out. So you can have your time, you can have sounds of nature playing, you can have a compass, and you've got 3 different versions of the compass, which, there you go. And then you've got maps. You can then adjust any of the EV stuff just by tapping on the car, for example. This gives you your battery status, and you can see your energy consumption there. This is, obviously, it's not consuming anything because we're not driving, so we can just see that the climate's using 2% and electronics is using 98% of what we're doing, and it's using a minuscule amount of power, but there you go. You can see energy consumption history, so there we go. It shows you all of the history of what energy we've used over the last little while. And then if we tap on the little plug, that then shows us any charging stations that are nearby. So that's also quite useful, that we can scroll through and then we can just go, yep, give me directions there, set as destination, and away we go. You can also set up a schedule. And so this gives you a schedule, and you can set the schedule for your charging. So you can set it to charge to a certain rate and all that kind of stuff. It'll adjust all that sort of stuff for you. So if you are a person with a regular schedule and you generally drive here and you generally drive there and all that kind of stuff, then you can do that as well. You get the cameras. You can adjust a lot with the cameras. This is showing us the back cameras, but we can see the 2 side cameras, we can see the front cameras, or we can turn on a 360-degree camera. And look at that, the truck's going past us and we can see it in the 360. Ooh, that's kind of freaky. The last little bits in the settings here that I want to go to, you've got voice memos. I'm not sure how useful, I don't know why you would want this, but I suppose, you know, if you're someone who often has brilliant ideas and you're like, oh, I've got to save this idea, the car has voice memos. I mean, you could do it with your phone plugged in with, you know, your assistant, but there we go. It's got voice memos. You've got climate settings, and you can see here you've got quite a lot of control over here. So you've got steering wheel heating, seating heating, ventilation. You can sync it. So, I mean, this is all stuff here, but it's all down here as well. So there you go. You've got, you know, you can adjust temperature, all that sort of stuff, but I suppose it's just nice having it somewhere else. You've also got your radio. So this is where you can go in and set all your radio stuff. Media. And so at the moment, it's playing the sounds of snowy hills. Ooh, rainy day. Great, now I need to pee. Open air cafe. I find that sound triggering. That's, oh, why? I have no idea why you'd want any of this, but okay. Oh, we can do surround. Awesome. Custom, yeah, okay, the surround custom. Okay, I have no idea why you'd want to do that, but okay, stop that now, thank you. By the way, I'm muting this by pushing the mute button on the steering. Yeah, okay. Now, the media does change, so if you are playing something from your phone, that media button takes you to playing something. In fact, let me just start up a podcast on my phone. Actually, I could just do that from the phone settings here. So if I go into phone, that brings me into my CarPlay settings, and let's just go to Overcast, which is my podcast listening device of choice. We'll listen to Upgrade.
I don't know, and that is disappointing. I pay attention to.
So there we go. So that's some media. And now if we go back to the Kia settings and then go into media, it goes to the media that you're playing. So if you want to not listen to the sounds of a cafe while you're in the car, have some media playing and Bob's your uncle. Quiet mode, I mentioned before how that all works. So that's to make the speakers in the back quiet. And you can see here you can turn it on or off. That's pretty much your options there with quiet mode. Information, that gives you traffic information, that gives you any interesting stuff going on. So those are all the settings. I hope that was useful. I hope that was beneficial. Now let's actually go for a drive and see how all of that works. So looking at maps, very easy to see. Now this lets you push that thing aside if you want to. You get apologies for the fingerprints. There's going to be, because I've gone with the black interface because it's easier for the camera to see, there's going to be fingerprints all over this. So let's say we want to navigate somewhere. So let's say we want to navigate to Flinders Street Station. Flinders Street. Is it going to find it? So there we go, Flinders Street Railway Station. So it comes in, shows you what you want to see. Yep, you want to go there, set his destination, give it a couple of secs, and it'll give you a recommended, give you an alternate route. I don't know why you'd want a longer route that's going to take longer, but away we go. Also, you get the display on the heads up, which is really, really nice. So put the car in gear, put your foot on the brake, turn the gear knob. So yeah, so it does this quite often, and I actually think I don't think it says the aircon's on, but yeah. Anyway, so I'll switch it off. So this might be user error, but what I find, the only way that I can fix this is I switch the car off with the on/off button, and then switch it back on. And I'm going to do the quick switch it back on by putting my foot on the brake, pushing the power button, and now I can get into gear and away we go. Not sure why it does that, and it does that quite often, but if anyone knows, please let me know down in the comments, because I'm pretty sure it's just something that I'm not doing correctly. Now you'll notice that I've taken my foot off the brake and we are slowly, we're slowly edging forwards, and that is because by default one pedal driving is not turned on. Now you've got these pedals on the left and the right, and the pedal on the right, you do that and that will decrease the amount of regenerative braking. So at the moment I've got it set to 0. And so now if I put my foot on the accelerator and if I take my foot off of the accelerator, we continue to coast like a standard, automatic car. But if I then tap the pedal on the left-hand side, that then increases the regenerative braking from 1 to 2 to 3, and then max is I-pedal driving, which is effectively one pedal driving. And this is a little bugbear of mine because I really love one pedal driving, and unfortunately you cannot have the car save this mode. So every time, not even every time I switch the car off, but every time I change gears, the car goes out of I-pedal and I've got to use the pedal to put it back into I-pedal. Now, it's not a huge thing, it's not a huge inconvenience, but it is an inconvenience. Just like I'm inconveniencing this ute behind me on a 100k road and I'm only doing 70, so I might find a spot to pull over and pull over so nice Mr. Ute can go nicely. Now, we're actually on a fairly bumpy road and we are feeling the bumps, but I would say we're not feeling them terribly. So that again comes down to the suspension and how it's been tuned for Australian roads. I'm not sure what that actually means, but I'm sure car people will be able to tell me what that actually means. Otherwise, once you get onto iPedal, fairly straightforward in terms of driving. You know, you can lift your foot off the accelerator and the car will come to a complete stop, which is really nice. Now, I've been told I've gone into some forums and done some reading, but you know, you can't believe everything you hear on the internet, including this show. I've been told that actually the iPedal, like the full one pedal driving, is not the most efficient for regenerative driving. Apparently leaving it in 2 or 3 is the most efficient. I don't know. I can't quite get my head around how that works. So again, if someone does know, please explain it to us in the comments. Yeah, that's the one other thing with the regenerative braking is that you can actually set it to auto, and then it will adjust the strength of the regenerative braking. So this is interesting. So an alternate route has changed due to traffic conditions. Do you want to take that? And I'll say yes. And we'll see what that does. And yeah, so the regenerative braking, you can set it to auto, and then the car will actually automatically adjust the strength of your regenerative braking, whether it's, you know, level 1, 2, 3, 0, whatever, depending on what's going to be the most efficient. Or no, sorry, it's not the most efficient. It's the car in front of you. So if it needs to apply more to slow you down faster, it'll do that. It's like adaptive cruise control. Now, I really don't like that. So I haven't even tried it, and I don't trust mechanical things and digital things to do that kind of thing. So yeah, I just haven't put it on because I don't think I'm going to like that. If you like that sort of thing, have at it. I will also mention that, as with other videos of mine, the challenge of shooting in a moving vehicle where your light source, being the sun, is changing. I'm guessing that the bottom half of me is probably completely blown out, but what can we do? Now, we are on the straight stretch for the next 13.7 kilometers, and then at 15.1 kilometers we'll be doing a complete right-hand turn, and I can see that because I've got this wonderful heads-up display in front of me, and I'll play some B-roll now to give you an idea of what the heads-up display looks like. And that 100 zone quickly changed to an 80 zone, so let's slow down to 80. And while we're on this nice and straight stretch, I thought this is actually a really good opportunity to show you how the adaptive cruise and the lane keep assist works. So to turn on adaptive cruise is push the adaptive cruise button on the left hand side of the steering wheel, and that has turned on the adaptive cruise, and I can see that I'm 1k over the speed limit. So I'm going to just flick down on the left hand, whatever that is, toggly thing, and now I am at 80. And again, I can see that the cruise control is set to 80 in the augmented reality, which again, I love this heads-up display. It's so good. To turn on the lane keep assist, you click on the lane keep assist button, and now the car is going to be keeping me in the lane, and you know that it's on in your heads-up display if you've got like the green steering wheel thing, and on the dash you also get this green steering wheel. So the car is now adjusting my speed according to the speed limit or the speed of the car in front of me, and it is keeping me in my lane. Now again, you do have to keep your hands on the wheel, you do have to still pay attention to the road, but for long drives, these functions, the cars that have these functions, it just makes it so much easier, particularly the adaptive cruise, because you don't have to really concentrate on maintaining your speed with the pedal. And the lane keep assist, it's not, you know, the best thing in the world, but just that little bit of not having to pay attention as much. So sort of instead of having to concentrate at 95%, you can concentrate at 85%. And just that 10% less of concentration, at least in my experience, means that when you arrive a little bit more refreshed. A couple of other things I really like about the car, just sort of driving around. You have blind spot monitoring, blind spot awareness. So if a car comes into your blind spot, which I'll show you when we get onto a highway, we're on a single lane road at the moment, so I hope no one's going to get into my blind spot. But the way that works is you get a red indicator, a red triangle on the mirror. You also get an indication on the dash, and if you've set it up, you can turn this on and off, you've got it in your heads-up display as well. So that's really good. When you indicate, you get the cameras, the side cameras come on the dash, which is really, really nice. So you see your blind spot with the camera on the dash. You can see I'm being told to keep my hands on the steering wheel there again. It would be really cool. Now, I'm not sure how difficult this would be from a technical level, but I imagine this is just a digital display for the heads-up display. So it'd be really cool if they could put the blind spot mirror camera up on here in the heads-up display. Technically, I think that would be very difficult to do, because putting text up, you know, it's easier to reflect text off the window than it would be to reflect a video signal. This is something I know a little bit about, so if they could work out a way to do it, that'd be really cool. But I can appreciate that it's definitely not the easiest thing to just do, although I'm a big fan of saying something is really easy when someone else has to do it. So I could go, oh, they should just do that, because I'm not the one who has to work out how to do it. A really nice function of the lane keep assist. Now my assistant is pointing out that even though the car is saying that we are driving at 80 k's an hour, his app is showing that we are actually driving at 77 k's an hour. So we're 3 k's under the limit. I think I saw something in the settings here where you can set that to be adjusted. I'm fine by going, if the car says I'm doing 80, I'll just follow what the car is doing, and if it's a little bit slower, I know I'm going to annoy people behind me, but it's 3k slower. If you're late, leave earlier. Some other things you can do with the maps here is there's this button down here in the bottom right hand corner, and that will show you a more detailed view of your route. So you can see simple, you can see detailed, you can also see if there's any service centers around. You can then also bring out, back. So you can see if there's any service centers around, and then to make that go away, you just tap on the bottom right hand corner. And again, it's quite an intuitive UI, because there's an arrow that goes, oh, that'll make it go that way. Oh, there's an arrow that makes it go that way. Pretty straightforward. You can also bring out like a secondary display, and so this will play your music. I don't need sounds of nature at the moment, thank you very much. You have a compass, if that's your thing. In fact, you have 3 different compasses, if that's your thing. You then have the maps, which I know it doesn't make sense to have the maps next to the maps, but that's if you had the EV information over here on the left, and then you have your maps on the right. You have the time, and then you have your EV information. And a nice little touch here is that it will actually show you where the nearest charging station is. So particularly for people who are new to electric cars and might be a little bit anxious about range and things like that, the fact that you can very easily tap the screen and see right away, okay, we're only 6.1 kilometers away from a ChargeFox charging station, I think it's a very nice touch. Now, I have not touched the pedals, and so the car has been doing adaptive cruise control this whole time, and it has done a really good job. In fact, we're down to 70. So now to lower your adaptive cruise speed, you hold down on the dial here, and by holding down, that'll drop it down by 10 kilometers. So every time you hold that down, it'll drop it down by 10. If you flick it down, it'll drop it down by 1. Well, this is a really good chance to show off how the adaptive cruise works. So at no point have I actually had to change our speed, and the adaptive cruise adjusted accordingly with the car in front of us, no problem whatsoever. I can actually see the following distance down here in the dash. At the moment, I've got a following distance of 2 cars. Now, this is something that, again, I appreciate the challenge here is it would mean more buttons, and the more buttons you put on a car, the more complexity you're putting there. So I get the decision as to why it's this way, but in order to change my following distance, I've got to cycle through them. So I can cycle through to following distance of 1, following distance of 4, following distance of 3, and then if I want to go back to 4, I've got to go 2, 1, 4. It'd be nice if I could go just up or down in either direction, so having to cycle through it, again, not a big deal, but something to be aware of. Now, speed's gone up to 80, so I'm going to flick the dial up, and there we go. Now the car's just going to adjust to 80, and happy days. Now here's a really great example. This is what I was talking about in terms of how the maps is really good, where it brings up this UI, so it shows you very clearly this is the lane you want to be in, this is the direction you want to go in. I definitely find, and now we can see that car just activated our blind spot monitoring, and another car is going to be coming up our side to show our blind spot monitoring yet again. I cannot credit the system enough in terms of the functionality and how it says to you, you know, there's 5 lanes coming up, you need to be in the 3rd one, and it shows you exactly which lane you need to be in. I cannot tell you how much I enjoy the map system in this car. Getting back to the speed and stuff in the car, you've got 3 modes of your driving style. So, and you adjust them with this button down here in the bottom left-hand side of the steering wheel. So at the moment, I've now put the car into sports mode, and you know that it's sports mode because everything's gone red. Ooh, because red makes everything go faster. And so with sports mode, you can put your foot down and you're going to vroom quite nicely. So I'm doing 60 in an 80 zone. So I'm just going to indicate and move across, and I can very easily just pick up the pace. And in sport mode, you've got instant torque, instant speed. It's plenty quick. Again, it's one of those cycling things. Oh, and now we're down to 50 k's an hour. So there's a good time to go to the next mode, which is eco mode. And this is one of the things I'm not a huge fan of, is that when you change modes, your speed actually changes. So watch, if I'm in eco mode and now I put it into normal mode, the car just jumped a little bit. And then if I put it into sports mode, I mean, we're slowing down to a set of lights, but if I put it into sports mode while I'm driving, the car like jumps a little bit. Now, within a day of driving the car, I was perfectly used to that and it wasn't really an issue. So it's not a major, but it definitely was a little bit of a, oh, hang on, what happened? When I did it the first time. Now I'm used to it, and I can adjust my speed as I know I'm about to change the mode. So if I'm going into eco mode from sports mode, I know I have to put my foot down a little bit to maintain my speed. You know what else? Okay, so now it's just dinged up and showed me that there's a speed camera up ahead. That's handy until you go on a road that's got like 5 or 6 speed cameras up ahead for quite some time, and it's like ding, 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 ding. And again, you can turn that off. So, but I wanted to try and drive the car as au naturel as possible, and that sound, I think, was the sound of, oh, you've passed the speed camera. Something I didn't mention, and I can't show you right now because we're driving at 50 k's an hour, but with the adaptive cruise, when you're on the highway with adaptive cruise and lane keep assist, something that I really like that the car does, which some other cars either don't do it at all or you have to pay to do it, is that when you want to change lanes and you've got the lane keep assist switched on, you can indicate, change lanes, and as soon as you turn the indicator off and you're back in your new lane, the lane keep assist will come back on automatically. Whereas with my car that I actually drive, when I change lanes, it turns off the lane keep assist, and then I've got to manually turn it back on as soon as I get into the other lane. Now, I could get lane changing, but that would cost me $5,000. So I'm not going to do that with a Tesla Model Y. So this is kind of cool how it shows you that if we turn the aircon off, our range would be 324, but with the aircon on, our range is 275. Quite frankly, it's 30 degrees outside. I'm fine with the range being a bit less, and we have the aircon on. And with the whole EV setup here, you can bring out that side screen, and now you have the maps in the small side screen and the EV stuff in the big side screen. I'm not sure why you'd prefer this, but I always like having options there rather than not having options there. And so if you want to go back to maps, so there's maps again, and now I've got the EV stuff on the right hand side. It's such a shame I can't show you the heads-up display. The heads-up display is now showing me 6 lanes of traffic, and it's showing me exactly which lane I need to be in, and oh, it's just so good. So it's saying go straight, don't go left, go on the M3. It just makes, I don't know what things are like for you, but for me, this lessens so much of potential stress for me when I'm driving, that I'm like, oh wait, hang on. So Because roads can sometimes be confusing. You're probably looking there going, no, they're not. Well, for me, they are. And so, yeah, the heads up the maps and the heads up are just so good. Voiceoverly here again. Now, before I go into the summation that I recorded when I still had the car, I thought there was something worth mentioning. So, a little bit of inside baseball, we get the car for a little bit of time and then we drop it off, and I've got to drive home in my normal car. And so, when I dropped the EV6 off, as soon as I got back into my Model Y, my gut feeling, and this was I just thought it worth mentioning, my gut feeling was like, oh, the EV6 was nicer. And this is with, the feel, what have you, all the details, the EV6 just felt nicer to drive. Now, does that mean I'm going to sell my Model Y and buy an EV6? No, don't be silly. That's impractical. And there are things about the EV, like not having the app is a really big deal for me, and loads of other little things. But, and because I'm not a car person, I'm struggling to find the vocabulary for this, but I'm going to try and describe it for you as best I can. The EV6 felt more connected to the road to me. Now, I know it's a different type of car. It's not as big. It's not as, what have you. But it just felt like when I was driving the EV6, when I sort of turned and it felt more responsive. And again, your experience may be different, but my initial experience when I got back into my Model Y it was like the Model Y was sitting between me and the road. And so when I turned, like the wheel turned, and then the Model Y kind of responded afterwards. And that's not entirely accurate, but that's the best way that I can find to describe it. So if you are looking at an electric car, whatever you've heard, whatever you've seen, even after all of this video, the EV6 may not be right for you, but definitely go and give it a test drive. In fact, if you can, I'd suggest see if you can rent one for a week and really experience it, and see how you feel. So that was my overview of the Kia EV6. Now, I think this is a really great car. I'm not sure for $86,000, but again, if that kind of money comes easy to you, fantastic. A few things that I'd prefer that it had for that amount of money. The fact that the key doesn't auto lock when you walk away. The fact that you can't access the Kia Connect app at all with the car. Little things like how you can't turn the augmented reality on and off by mapping it just to a custom button. So little niggly things like that. Not deal breakers on their own, but those are things that I think could be better. The things that are really good and things that I do like, well, that list is a lot longer. I think the ride is very comfortable. This car has taught me what good suspension feels like, so that's a real plus. I like the look of it. I like the door handles. I know it's a small thing, but the fact that they come out and you can pull them, it's a nice feature. The augmented reality thing that's up in front of you, the heads-up display, oh, I think every car should have that. Ventilated seats. Oh God, do I love it. I love ventilated seats are so nice. The maps, the navigation side of things, I think the look I don't love, but the functionality is one of the best navigation systems I've ever seen in a car. So that's really, really good. The way it lights up at night, I know this is really corny, and thank goodness actually that we're early birds, like my wife and I and my son, we're in bed by 9, we're asleep by 9:30 and 10. So normally we don't drive at night, but it's New Year's Day today, and we actually drove home from a New Year's party last night, and we turned the car on and we were all like, "Whoa, look at this, it's so cool." It's like blue accent light, and I'm easily impressed, but I think it looks really cool. I'll put some B-roll over the top of this and show you that now. So the way that it lights up at night on the interior, really, really nice. I find the touch screen is very responsive, so at no point have I found that the touch screen is slow or anything like that. The fact that you've got Android Auto and Apple CarPlay, so you've got those options if you want them. The vehicle to load. Every car in the world should have vehicle to load. It's the best thing since sliced bread. And I don't even eat bread that much anymore, and I still think it's best thing since sliced bread. The fact that you've got a normal power socket under the back seat that's accessible. There's a lot of things that I think Kia have done really, really well, that they've thought about how can we make this a better experience for the driver on a day-to-day basis. So that is my rather long list of things that I really like about the Kia EV6. Now, is it for me? Again, there's no such thing as a perfect thing. So It's not for me, but I think it could very well be for you, particularly if you're coming from a traditional car kind of feel. I think this is a great car that again happens to be electric. So definitely go check out the EV6. I hope you found this video useful or helpful. If you have found it useful or helpful, please like and subscribe. If you've already subscribed, thank you so much for your support, and we'll catch you in the next one. Safe and happy driving. Cool. Blah, 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 blah. So it might make it into the bloopers.
Yep, we're rolling.
Another thing with vehicle to low that I forgot, well, I forgot to mention because I'm going to edit it in and you're not going to know that I forgot. Oh, mate, we were talking about, Mandy and I were talking about this on our road trip. We were talking about like people who drive really slowly on single lane roads and then speed up when you get to like when you get to an overtaking thing. They deserve a lifetime of paper cuts. I have absolutely, you know, I am quite the pacifist. I am not, you know, I don't think of myself as an aggressive person, but people like that, I can be aggressive for them. Oh, ventilated seats. I love me some ventilated seats. That you don't have enough energy in the battery to get there, it'll go, battery charging is efficient. Where things are and how things work, you can actually navigate through this pretty quickly and pretty easily. I just need to get familiar with it. What was I banging on about? I like that. I like that a lot. And you can turn it off completely if you find all the beeps and the bongs a little bit exciting. If you find, and you can lower that. Rolling on there. See, this is the challenge. I mean, I've been futzing about for quite some time before I can even get started, which is a little frustrating, but anyway, not important. Okay. Rolling. I hope that's rolling. Probably should have turned the thing around, but anyway. No, let's check, because otherwise I don't want to do the whole thing and then it's all out of focus. Yep, that's rolling and it's in focus. I'll just flip that around so we can just look back and check that it's actually on. Yeah. Okay. Welcome to the passenger seat of the EV6. Should we do the fake getting in? Yeah, let's do the fake getting in. Welcome to the driver's seat of the Kia EV6. Now, come on people, we're burning 6K here.
Yeah, I know. It makes a difference, right?
Come on! So it's like shooting with film again. I've only got so many rolls left.